Happy New Year. It's January 2nd, 2026. Not one of those weird years that feels weird to say it. This one seems pretty normal, kind of. You're watching DeProgram with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou. Good morning and Happy New Year, John.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you, Ted. It's going to be a good year. I feel it in my bones. And I know that I'm guilty of saying that every single year, including the year in which 3 weeks later I was arrested and charged with 5 felonies. But I really do feel like 2026 is going to be a big year for both of us.
From your lips to God's ears. And thank you so much for doing this with me going into a second year. I'm really enjoying this show. I really am. It's one of the things, it's like you want it. Honestly, what I used to have so many jobs where I would the alarm would go off and I'd be like, oh man, I've got to go and do this. And I hated everything about it. It's the opposite. I don't ever set an alarm. I get up normally. I look forward to it. I hop out of bed. I'm always looking forward to doing this. So thank you for that. You're a huge part of it. And also Robbie West, thank you for that too. You're a huge part of it too.
I am guilty.
Speaking of which, we will have Robbie come on in just a little bit to talk about what we're doing. This is the last, for the time being, of the 2-hour call-in shows. So we are here 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. this morning. We're going to be talking about the news of the day, and there's quite a bit of news to talk about. There's that fire in Switzerland. Mamdani took office yesterday as mayor of New York. Very interesting, more interesting than I thought it was going to be. More going on in Venezuela. And unfortunately, millions of Americans have now lost their health insurance as of yesterday. So we'll talk about all that. We will be doing the call-in show starting in the second hour, 10 a.m. The way that's going to work is there's a Discord link on the top of the pinned to the top of the YouTube and the Rumble feeds. Robbie is going to explain how to do that, but basically you're going to click that and wait. And no need to do that quite just now. We're not going to be taking any calls for 57 minutes, but you will be able to call in and talk to John and I and in real time. Please like and follow and share the show. We're back Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time starting on Monday. So that's all the business. John, did you have a chance to catch anything from Mamdani's inauguration yesterday? Where apparently the Mamdani administration doesn't think they need to hire any graphic artists for their banners. But guys, I'm available. And for 10 minutes of my time, I could do better. But anyway, go ahead.
I was pleasantly surprised at how nicely organized it was. I got the symbolism of the different things that he did. The speech with the city hall stop in the background, very nice. The midnight swearing in, well done, well done. There was one thing that I was particularly interested in. I ran to the New York Post just to see what their reaction was going to be, because of course the New York Post is the right wing. It's not so much a right wing newspaper as it is a right wing rag. It's the tabloid for New York City. Yeah. It's a tabloid, and the banner headline last night was that Mamdani's, what is she, girlfriend, wife, I guess, wife, that she wore $645 shoes. It's like, right. That's what offends you the most, that the woman also has an expensive pair of shoes.
I wanted to send a memo down to South Street where the New York Post is to 6th Avenue where the New York Post is headquarters and say, so you do realize it's 2026, right? $600 shoes isn't really that crazy anymore. I mean, no. I don't have any, but I have $300 boots. I mean, I don't think I'm that bourgeois.
Yeah. No, see, nothing better to complain about.
Yeah,
the reason why normally I wouldn't care one way or the other about New York politics. I don't live in New York. I visit there, I don't know, 8 or 10 times a year, but I don't live there, so I generally wouldn't care. I especially disliked Eric Adams because he was a Turk lover, but Mamdani I really want to succeed. Only because they bash him so unfairly. The guy's been mayor for 9 hours, for God's sake, or whatever it is, 36 hours, whatever. Give him a minute. You're
right.
bashing him already
over his wife's shoes. I mean, look,
I agree. Shoes.
I agree with that. I do always think that when someone's been bashed that much, they deserve a chance to succeed, whether they're on the right or on the left. That said, also, look, the left doesn't get a lot of shots at the brass ring in this country politically. And so here you have, I want him to do well, because if he fucks up, they're going to say, oh, look, we tried a democratic socialist and he screwed up. And that's why, no, we can never give the left a shot at power ever again. They don't say that about the right, about like the corporatists, right? Ever. They screw up.
Yes.
They get to keep coming back over and over.
That's right.
But so all eyes are going to be on him. I thought a number of things were interesting. First of all, let's just talk about the symbolism. He totally owned the fact that he's going to be called a commie by everybody.
Yes.
He brought in,
Yep.
he had Bernie Sanders swear him in. He had AOC in the front row. I thought it was gracious, by the way, of outgoing Mayor Adams to show up, and it was gracious of him to acknowledge Adams, even though Adams had to sit there and listen to a lot of stuff that basically was an indirect criticism of his own mayoralty. I thought it was nice that he had something nice to say about de Blasio. It was overall a very civilized celebration of New York City. And I also thought it was interesting that he owned, he kept quoting and people, kept quoting very left-wing references. Jumanji Williams, by the way, the public advocate who spoke shortly before the mayor, is definitely a force to be reckoned with and a hard act to follow, and will no doubt has a future in city politics in a big way. The other thing is that now I think without a doubt, Zohran's been studying Trump. He's coming out of the gate fast and strong. And he already passed a flurry of executive orders, very Trump-like, where first of all, he did one thing that's very Ted Rall like, which is he's ordered that all abandoned public housing and and empty lots be examined for possible use as immediate construction of new housing. That's something I've been pushing for years, and something that's very anti-Ted Rall, which is to basically reduce regulations for private developers to build more housing. Because I don't think we have a housing crisis in New York City. I think we have a warehousing crisis. We don't need new housing.
You've said that all the years that I've known you, that there's plenty of housing. It's just a question of making it all livable and getting people into it.
It's a cartel, John. I mean, there's empty commercial real estate, storefronts that have been boarded up literally for 25 years. There are entire blocks in the middle of Manhattan, like at 8th Avenue in the 20s, like right in the middle, smack dab the middle of Chelsea, which is a very upscale neighborhood, which are completely abandoned and empty. There are townhouses on the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side of Manhattan that are worth $10 million, empty, vacant, tied up in probate. All of these things should be seized under eminent domain and used for some sort of housing. There's the 10022 zip code, which is the Upper East Side of Manhattan, very conservative. The occupancy rate in that area is 20%. 80% of the housing, all those buildings, right. You look up in the sky, they're empty. People sleep outside of empty buildings. It's very fucked up. But anyway, the thing is, he did that, and then the other thing he did was he basically went after the idea that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are the same. He got rid of the official IHRA designation of anti-Zionism as a form of anti-Semitism. And did a bunch of other stuff, basically saying we're going to leave the pro-Gaza, the boycott and divestiture movements alone. I mean, it's symbolic, but it's kind of stuff that he would have been accused of doing even if he hadn't done. So he might as well do it. I thought it was smart.
I think that's smart too. I saw the Zionism thing. It was virtually the first thing he did as soon as he took the oath of office. I thought, wow, now that is positive. People are going to lose their shit for a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks.
They'll get over it.
Yes, they'll get over it, exactly. And I hope that they give him the benefit of the doubt on things like public safety, for example. God knows nobody could have been worse than Eric Adams in terms of
True.
public safety. And this freaking guy was a police captain. So I'm looking forward
It's
to giving
unbelievable.
Mamdani a shot.
Well, I think with
Yeah,
Adams, what's really weird is he definitely on paper had what it took to be mayor. I mean, he was
definitely.
experienced. He was in city government for a long time. He, like you said, he had the experience in law enforcement, and he was a reformist cop back in the day.
Right?
I mean,
That's
who
right.
knew that in his heart, in the black piece of coal that is his heart, that he was a corrupt fucker? Like you said,
Yeah,
not
correct.
only not only sympathetic to the Turks, but on their payroll. Um,
On their payroll.
and like,
Yeah, to
and
the
in the
point.
most disgusting way, literally saying like, we'll just forget about the fire code
Yeah,
and let the Turks build whatever
no
they want.
worries. Yeah.
Yeah. Since when has fire ever killed anyone? We'll be talking about the Swiss ski resort thing soon. John, shall we take some questions, or do we have more to say
Yeah.
about Mamdani?
No, I look forward to the questions.
Okay, let's do it. Space Jockey says, Ted, I watched you on Jamal, and I want to opine. Do you really think that Trump would have given a fuck back then of the difference between a 16 and a 17-year-old and an 18 or 20-year-old? So what this is about is Jamal and I were talking about the Epstein files, and I said, and I said, let's just stipulate, I don't think Trump touched any children. But I said, the real issue is the fact that probably Trump knew about it, what Epstein was doing, and chose to look the other way. And I said, people just, people like at that level, they just choose not to care. So, I'm going to stick by that. I think people, after you get used to it after a while, you deal with so many scumbags after a while, you just become insensitive to it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I hate to say it.
Franz Mataz has a question for both of us. Do we expect a potential post-deal Ukraine resistance to spend their energy and capital attacking the West or Russia? So in other words, this would be like analogous to at the end of World War II when the
Green
Nazis were
wolves.
expected to have the werewolf brigades like of young people, wage resistance attacks against guerrilla attacks against the Allies. That didn't happen. And so I don't know. I mean, certainly the Ukrainians have more of a tradition of partisans, but it's also 2026 with drone technology and everything. I don't know how
Yeah,
you would be able to pull that off. You can't just, take to the woods like you're in that movie Defiance and just
right.
hang out and hope nobody finds you.
No, I don't see it happening. I really don't. For at least one reason being that the Ukrainians are losing. And you have to be blind to want to not acknowledge that the Ukrainians are losing and to want to keep this war going. Like, listen, it's laudable that you want to protect your country. It really is. But this territory is there. There are facts that play toward both sides as to who actually owns the territory. Do you really want to lay your life down for the Donbass?
No, I mean,
I would.
and the question is, how many people in the Donbass really want to be in Ukraine, right?
Right,
First of all, we
right.
don't have accurate polling on that, but I suspect it's not 50%, right?
I suspect you're right. You know,
And
Ted, there's a little piece of northeasternmost Greece called Thrace, Thraki. And then there's Eastern Thrace, which is on the Turkish side of the border. The people who live up there, for the most part, are what the Greeks call Turkish-speaking Greeks.
mm,
The truth is, they're ethnic Turks. And when the Treaty of Lausanne drew that border, it split the Turkish community. Some are on the east side, some are on the west side. If Greece and Turkey were involved in a war that had dragged on for 4 or 5 years, and the Turks took this little sliver of Thrace, I would jump up and down and say, "Oh, warmongering Turks, they're the worst people in the world." Would I take up arms? Absolutely not. for a little slice of where everybody's ethnically Turkish anyway? Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's that thing. There's all these little areas like that that are. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like Alsace-Lorraine in France. Like if Germany were just to
That's a
nibble
great
that off,
example.
you'd be like, which
That
they
is a
have
great
in the
example.
past. And the French kind of like, well, if you've been to Alsace-Lorraine, you're like, those people are basically Germans. They eat blood
Germans.
sausage and they drink beer instead of wine. And, that's true. I mean, if the Mexicans slipped across the border and nabbed El Paso, I'd be like, it's
Right,
basically a Mexican city.
right, right, right,
It's wrong, but it's not like they're taking Massachusetts,
right.
really. So yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, look, here's the thing. That's the ugly truth about the Ukraine invasion is that this war is kind of resolving an outstanding hangover of the breakup of the Soviet Union and a poorly drawn
Exactly right.
international border. I
Exactly
mean,
right. Yeah, and it's like Crimea. Crimea only became Ukrainian in 1953.
yeah,
Khrushchev gave Crimea.
symbolically,
Yes, exactly.
it was
He
all the
gave it
same
to.
country. It was just a different SSR.
That's it.
I mean,
That
I
is
mean,
it.
it's like, and I think the analogy, Americans don't think about this, right? But like, imagine if the U.S. split up the way that the Soviet Union did, and you had 50 countries instead, where there were 50 states. I mean, some of the
Right.
borders would be fine, but like, for example, Newark, really, should Newark be in New Jersey? I mean, Newark is really part of the extended New York City metro area. Should Camden be in New Jersey? Not really. It's basically Eastern Philadelphia. And there's be a lot of places like that. Like these where the borders kind of don't make a lot of sense, and they might be resolved through conflict.
Right. Exactly.
C.
Yeah.
Morris, have we heard, wants to know, and thanks for the $5 and Happy New Year. Have you heard about the Trump administration terminating the 50-year-old lease on the 3 public golf courses in D.C.? And
Yes.
as an avid golfer, I'd be furious. Those are the only affordable courses for the average golfer.
Yeah, my son golfs at one of them at Haynes Point quite regularly when he's home from school. And this is the end of golf in the District of Columbia. And there's
What
no rhyme or
exactly is
reason.
happening? Because I don't, for those of us who aren't familiar, John, can you explain what's
Sure,
going on?
there are 3 public golf courses inside the Washington, D.C. city limits, which of course is federal territory. And they're in kind of out of the way places, but they're the only places inside Washington that anybody can golf. The prices are low, and it's to encourage, physical fitness and get out in the beautiful city and, spend time outdoors and breathe fresh air. And over the weekend, over the holiday, for whatever reason, not explained, Donald Trump decided to terminate the city's lease agreements with the federal government for this space. Now it's all like parkland. Um, you can't or do anything with it. You can't build on it, nor should anybody want to build on it. But just like that, no more golf in Washington D.C. And he's a
Why did he,
golfer.
why did he do this?
I don't know. All I could think of it was, well, he's got his own club right outside town in Leesburg, Virginia. And then I thought, no, this is for normal people, average people who want to golf, right? They can't afford country club memberships to go
Yeah.
golf at, Donald Trump's golf course. It's
Oh,
terrible.
yeah, no,
Totally
it is
unnecessary.
terrible.
But you know what, though? Presidents come and go, and this is going to be corrected later.
I've hardly ever golfed in my life. I'm actually quite good at it. I kind of like have a natural affinity. I don't know what it is. I'm good at pool too. I'm like stuff like that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I was a
Oh,
good, I was
good.
a good hitter in baseball. Couldn't catch at all. Could never field.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that's required in the game. So, like,
Yes.
anyway, um, Frasmatas, does a true honorable communist have their photo taken with Alex Soros on election night? I don't know. You commies confuse me. Many are trust fund kids also. Yes, Soros approved. Well, there's at least 2 things in there. First of all, when I first learned about George Soros, I was so disappointed to find out that he was just really a Democrat. And he's never donated money to a socialist organization or a left wing like Answer or any coalition or any actual left wing activist organization. He's just a big fucking rich Democrat.
That's it.
And so,
Democrat.
but anyway, the other thing is, you can be a trust fund kid and be a communist. Karl Marx wasn't from a poor family, and certainly Engels certainly wasn't. Lenin wasn't. It's like, it's about what's in your heart and what you want for the future. It's not about your own personal history. It can't be. Wouldn't make sense. I don't know. What do you think?
I totally agree. Totally agree. George Soros, the father, the boogeyman, was the founder and benefactor of the Open Societies Foundation. So the man who was the executive director of Open Societies wrote the law that I was convicted of violating. So I went to him and I asked him if he would write a letter of support for my pardon request. He said, absolutely. He said, when I wrote the law, it was never meant to go after whistleblowers. It was only meant to go after traitors. So he wrote this beautiful letter to the president. And then I thought, well, with his support, I'm gonna ask him if he'll go to Soros. And so he went to Soros for me. I asked if Soros would ask the president to pardon me. This was Obama. And Soros said, absolutely not. He was not even vaguely interested in helping me. And then the head of the Open Societies told me, look, the bottom line is that Soros is a DNC mainstream Democrat. That's what this comes down to. Oh, breaking news. Tesla was just dethroned as the world, and it's BYD, beyond your dreams.
You've been talking about BYD a lot, John.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous car. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah, we will.
The bottom line is that it's that he is a mainstream DNC Democrat. He's not the lefty.
I wish he was.
I wish he was too.
Yeah, the left needs its own billionaire. We just don't have one because by definition, I guess you can't have that. Full disclosure, I used to Open Society Institute. I used to draw cartoons for one entity that's part of the Open Society Institute called EurasiaNet, which was basically, I don't know if they still exist or not. It was a news site about the Central Asian republics. And I used to do cartoons for them. And in also full disclosure, they never once told me what to draw or what not to draw. So just saying. But that was a long time ago. That was in the late 90s and early 2000s. Anyway, So by the way, also, I don't believe for a minute that Zohran Mamdani is a communist. I think, really, truly, these democratic socialists, small d, small s, they're just basically like 1960s, 70s liberal Democrats. They're Hubert Humphrey. They're George McGovern. They're people like that. That's what they are.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's why I'm calling them liberals.
Exactly right.
It's just that everything's moved so far left. Hey, Hunka Munka, thank you so much for becoming a monthly supporter over on Rumble. Much appreciated. And by the way, we probably should bring in Robbie it's already 9:25. We should talk about how to call in. So Robbie, please come on and use what's left of your voice to explain how the call-in segment works starting in 35 minutes.
Well, I will do my best. You'll have to turn your microphones up because my voice is shot bigger than hell. So the way this is going to work is pretty straightforward. I will drop a link to the Discord server. You're going to see a option down there once you join. It's called Call-in Waiting Room right up under the voice chat. You'll see it, easy to see. If Red I can find it, I promise you can because y'all are smarter than me. It'll be first come, first serve. So if you want to make sure that you get in, go and start joining now. I'll keep track of who comes in. Once we go live, I will drag y'all down. You'll be able to talk to John and Ted. And by talk, I mean ask a question. We're not interested in your stories. People want to hear theirs. So ask a question, and I'll put you back in the waiting room. And just the only rule is don't be a dick. It's pretty straightforward. If you are a dick, I will ban you.
Thank you, Robbie. And if you have an ad for us, please let us know.
There's no ads right now.
Question. Okay. Craig D. Vance, for you, John, you've been on Fox for various conversations. I'm curious what the vibe is behind the scenes. Do they drink their own Kool-Aid?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Mhm.
Lots of blondes with big boobs,
Mhm.
even off camera. I've not really run into any like intellectuals, but they're very much true believers. Yeah, and that's both in Washington and New York.
That was my
Yeah.
experience too. It's been longer for me, but I can't imagine it's changed.
No.
I used to be
Yeah.
a frequent flyer over there. Question for both of us from Kevin Cronin. What are and how expensive are your favorite footwear? Mine might be Vasqua at over $200, but got at half price.
For me, the most I've ever spent is about $175. Yeah. Shoes have never been important to me. I just don't
as
really
a straight
think
as straight men, shoes are not really our motivating thing. I think it's
No.
safety. Guys don't really care about shoes. I bought those $300 boots I described to go hiking to Lake Sarez in Tajikistan. I just didn't want my fucking feet to fall apart because I'm prone to blisters. And I forget the name of them, but I also lately have become addicted because I have plantar fasciitis to Hoka's, and they're the best. They're the best sneakers for
God.
people who have plantar.
I swear by them. In fact, I just bought my second pair a couple of weeks ago, and then I bought a third pair so that when the second pair wear out, I have the third pair I can step right into.
They're basically disposable
love them.
shoes. They last like 6 months and they fall apart like instantly. But but while they're lasting, they're great. So
They are the most comfortable shoes I have ever owned in my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm also
incredible.
for regular
My
shoes. I'm partial
sister-
to Doc Martens.
Doc Martens are great too. My sister initially introduced me to Hoka's. We were in Provincetown on Cape Cod, and we went into the store, and she said, "Oh, you have to try these shoes on." So I try them on. I said, they look like clown shoes, right? You know those giant shoes that clowns wear at the circus? And she said, I know, but you get used to it, and they're incredibly comfortable. So they were comfortable when I tried them on. I bought them, and then I was sold, man. Sold.
And what's funny is I don't know if you're aware of this, John, but like up until a few years ago, they were kind of like cool with the kids, like people like before old people started wearing them. Young people
didn't
liked
know that.
them. So like it's sort of like you didn't look like they didn't look down on you if they saw you walking in the street with them. I bet that's changed
funny.
now. It's kind of like how the Miata
That's funny.
was not a girl car when it first came out, and then it became a
Oh,
girl
it was
car.
very much a middle-aged men's car.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
within like 2-3 years, it was like you had to be a girl.
Yep.
Let's see more questions. Okay. Sorry, let me just get to all these. Ray C, thank you so much for gifting a subscription to the show. Sir Bikelot, I can attest to the fact that Laredo is on the wrong side of the border. John, how did torture affect morale in the CIA? While you couldn't keep with it, I guess tolerate it. How did your other colleagues look at it in the moment and years later? How does it look in retrospect? It's a good question.
That's a very good question. In the beginning, the compartment was so tightly controlled that nobody knew that this tiny band of officers was torturing people. Nobody knew until I'm going to say 6 or 8 months after the torture began. It affected morale. It split morale. There were a lot of guys who were true believers that not only was this something that we should be doing, they were enjoying doing it. And then by 2005, enough people knew about it and objected to it that George Tenet pulled back. So they were torturing people from August of 2002 until the middle of 2005. But they kept the secret prisons going, and they kept, while there wasn't like active torture in the secret prisons after 2005, there was active torture at Guantanamo. And more people objected as more and more people became informed. It split morale. It damaged morale.
P, thanks for the $5, P Vecchio. Mamdani and Trump were third-party takeovers of the major parties, third party in scare quotes. Would you interview Libertarian governor candidate Larry Sharpe from New York to talk about the challenges of third parties, i.e. legal hurdles? We answered this question before. Yes, if anyone wants to hook us up, please, make that happen. We will be happy to have Larry come on the show. Thanks for the $9, Jacob Decker. $9.99 actually. The CIA is notorious for putting people into power that they want. Do you think they were involved in Mamdani winning in New York? What would be the objective of having a Muslim mayor in New York and London?
No, that's just not something that the CIA is involved in. No. And the CIA, there's a position in the NYPD. It's deputy police commissioner for intelligence. And that traditionally goes to a person coming out of the CIA, right? The first one was Dave Cohen. He was the deputy director of the CIA for operations. He retired. He became deputy commissioner for intelligence. So the CIA likes things just the way they are. It doesn't matter who happens to be the mayor, so long as they get their position and can liaise with the Joint Terrorism Task Force. That's all they care about.
John, let me ask you a really highly theoretical question. So if, let's say, we had President Mamdani and red and yellow bunting all over the country and hammer and sickle flags, if the CIA remained in power, would the CIA basically dutifully continue to operate under a new left-wing regime, or would that just be too much for them?
I'm going to give you a two-prong, like a forked answer. On the one hand, most of the CIA would continue to operate as if nothing happened because the president is the chief executive. They serve at the pleasure of the president. With that said, I think there would be elements of the CIA's Directorate of Operations that would actively seek to remove a president like that.
Wow.
I mean, John Kennedy was a Cold War Democratic hawk, anti-communist
World War II
hawk.
hero.
Yeah. And that didn't save him.
That's true. Soden, thanks for the $20. Happy New Year, John. We know you've had issues with your former agency. Yeah. Can you tell us a few? Can you tell us about your coworkers who were awesome, who we never really hear about, like Mike Spann and Bob Baer? Same question for Ted.
Yeah.
I guess, obviously I never worked at the agency, but I guess maybe my question would be like LA Times or something like that. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead.
I liked most of the people that I worked with. Most of them were genuinely great guys, women. They were patriots. Most of them actually happened to be Democrats. And all they wanted to do was serve their country. But it's like the higher up the chain you go, the easier it is to lose your mind and become a part of this activist right-wing groupthink that makes it all so dangerous. Like there were two guys in particular who I really, really liked when we were all junior officers together. One of them became deputy director of counterterrorism and then deputy director of the FBI for counterterrorism. He became a war criminal, is what it was. He was a great guy. And then all of a sudden he's like murdering people with drones and then bragging about it. The other became head of the Alex Station, Osama bin Laden unit. Awesome, fun guy, hilarious sense of humor. And he just became a stone cold killer. besides those two, most of the people that I rose through the ranks with were really great men and women. I enjoyed their time. Our time together.
Yeah, my answer is not going to be as interesting because it's not the CIA, it's the LA Times. But I'll just say that, like, I really liked almost everybody that I worked with a lot. I didn't actively dislike anyone. Basically, there was an inverse relationship between title and weaseltude. So the higher ranking editors who were more like middle management, like Nick Goldberg, who was like the middle management connection between like the executives, the C-suite, and like the editors who actually work for a living. He was a weasel. But even so, he was like a likable, charming weasel. And I didn't really have cause to butt heads with him until the shit hit the fan with me. And the people who were out to shiv me never met me, didn't know me, didn't care about me. We never had I literally hadn't even heard of some of these guys like Austin Butner when they came after me. And I think, frankly, it's just easier to shiv someone when you don't know them, and you don't interact with them. Doesn't mean you can't do it otherwise, but just easier. But no, I really love one of the great sorrows for me. I don't know if you must feel like this, is with what happened to me at the LA Times, and I left involuntarily. Was I miss the people and I miss the job. I miss it. It was like I liked it. I was having a good time. I liked those people. I valued them. I valued the job. I loved being identified with the LA Times. I used to think it was a good paper. I mean, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that does.
Um, MT16, thanks for the $20. A lot. Hi guys. When you were inside, John, did you know of any female guards shagging the inmates? A guy my sister is going out with said this happens all the time in UK prisons. Happy New Year. I'm reminded of that mini series, Escape from Dannemora, where that did happen, and it was key to an escape in an upstate New York prison.
Yeah, I did know of one case, and it was even uglier than just a female guard shagging a prisoner. It was a female guard married to the lieutenant who was in charge of the special investigative service, the rats, the rat squad in the prison. In fact, they escorted her out. They arrested her, escorted her out in full view of everybody. He was utterly humiliated. And I had to go to an outside, what do you call it, doctor to, I broke my pinky finger. I had to have my pinky finger reset. So they shackle you ankles and wrists to a chain around your waist. They put me in the back of the van. We're on our way to the doctor's office. And this lieutenant says to the driver, you know anybody who might be interested in a recently separated guy with a 4-inch dick? I remember just shaking my head.
Oh,
like, you poor bastard. Yeah.
Wow.
God. Yeah, it was bad.
So wait, I'm just curious because you've mentioned previously that the dental care was basically non-existent in prison.
Non-existent.
But medical care, like it wasn't the same. Like you mentioned your finger.
Well,
they would send you out and have you taken care of.
Only because I raised hell and I mentioned it in an interview with Jake Tapper. So it was 6 weeks. 6 weeks before I broke my finger, and I kept saying, you guys, I'm telling you, it's broken, it's broken, it's broken. I'm numb all the way up to my elbow. It's broken, it's broken, it's broken. I kept making written complaints. They kept rejecting them. And then Jake Tapper asked for an interview. So he came up to the prison, and we're sitting in the assistant warden's office. And he asked me about medical care. And I said, what medical care? They don't care if you die here. I said, I broke my finger 6 weeks ago. I'm begging them to let me have it set. It was crooked, like bending outward like this. It was ridiculous. And he says to the assistant warden, "Is that true?" And he's like, blah, 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 blah. He wouldn't answer. Next thing I know, I'm in a van on my way to an orthopedic specialist.
It helps to know Jake Tapper.
I'll say.
Every prisoner should meet Jake Tapper. Wow.
Seriously.
That's insane. Let's talk about Venezuela. So President Nicolas Maduro says that he's now open to a deal. I don't think that's really a change, right? It's being reported like that's something new. But from what we know,
actively saying this for months.
So he's been talking, but apparently, I don't know. So what do you make of that? Is this reporting coming out of the White House where basically it's the leak is that the signaling is that maybe the truth is that the Trump administration is more serious about making a deal? And if they make a deal, how can Maduro trust that he's not going to be spirited off to Miami and jailed, as we've talked about here on the program?
Yeah.
And that's question A. Then question B is, what is up with the bombing of drug boats, leaving survivors in the water, and then sending the Coast Guard out to look for the survivors? I mean, why bomb them in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because the administration's taken it on the chin for bombing survivors in the past, which is a war crime, that now they're doing like the least amount of work necessary to not be accused of a war crime by just sending a Coast Guard cutter to look for them. But then what do you do with them?
If you
find them.
I mean,
out in the ocean.
Yeah, it's needles in a haystack. So
It truly is.
what's going to happen here? I mean, is the administration interested in bringing this in for a soft landing? Will they spirit Maduro off to the French Riviera? What will they do? Or Havana, or whatever they're going to do?
I think if Maduro can get out on his own, if I were Maduro, I wouldn't trust the U.S. government to
No.
arrange my exile. So if he can get out on his own, I think the Trump administration will declare victory, install a new leader, at least temporarily, and live happily ever after.
Could this be arranged like a Cuban? Could the Cubans send a jet to retrieve him? Would that be good enough?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think
And might
so.
they? Would they be interested in taking him for any? I mean,
I think
there's
so,
an
but
alliance.
the Cubans, yeah, but I think the Cubans are actively encouraging him to stay and fight because that's where Cuba gets its oil from,
Mhm.
and things are bad enough in Cuba. Can you imagine having a right-wing pro-American leader in Venezuela, what that means for Cuba? Oh my God. Yeah, they don't want him to jump on a plane and run to Havana.
Right. That's a bad situation for both Maduro and for Trump because there's no easy solution here.
See, now in that case too, I would be worried about people taking up arms and refusing to accept the change in government. Remember, like we said last week, Venezuela is the size of France, Germany, and Austria combined, and most of it is thick jungle. We can't fight a war like that. Yes.
And also the Venezuelan government has been training sort of Fedayeen type personnel to conduct that kind of street level and
Right.
guerrilla warfare. So I mean, basically, I think the government would
Right.
fall quickly, but then the resistance would begin. It would be like Iraq,
So too.
which
Yeah,
is not
I think
good.
so too.
Pivecchio, what keeps Sicily poor? It's on shipping routes, very fertile farmland. Is it organized crime, government policy, Mediterranean culture? Thanks for the $2.
Yes, yes, and yes. I think so. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Corruption is rife, right? I mean, basically,
Corruption
the money all gets skimmed
has
off the
always
top.
corruption has always been a problem. Yes,
When I
always been a
visited
problem.
Sicily, I was last time I went, it was like 10 years ago. It was amazing how many checkpoints there were with Carbonari, with Uzis. And then also, God, like you just get, I mean, it's pretty, it's gorgeous. But then like, for example, you go to the bank and just to go to inside the bank, you walk in, there's a door, it slides shut behind you before the
That's how
next
they are in
door
Greece.
opens.
That's how
Really?
they are in Greece. Yes, sir.
So if you
It's
robbed the
tough.
bank,
And dude,
you'd be stuck there like a bug between the two doors.
oh yeah, you can't get out. Same in Greece. Don't forget too that Sicily is where the mafia was founded, where it was created, Castellamare del Golfo, and it still runs the show in Sicily and
And
in
that
Naples, for that
and
matter.
that's also partly because, right, the mafia made a deal with with the U.S. and the Allies that when they landed in Sicily, in exchange for information about the landing site and intel, they would be allowed to remain in power after the Allied invasion of Sicily in 1943.
That's right.
And so they have.
In fact, Vito Genovese famously had been expelled from the United States in, I think it was 1939. He was expelled back to Sicily, used a fake name, and became a translator for the U.S. Army when it landed in Sicily in 1944, and immediately began running the black market in Sicily, made millions of dollars, which he smuggled back to the United States. And then he came back to the United States, bought everybody off so that he could legalize himself and head the mafia family that still bears his name.
Brilliant and crazy. But yeah, I one time when I went to Sicily, I parked at a parking deck, outdoor parking lot, like near a beach. And yeah, it was just a parking garage, a parking lot. And I noticed all the pockmarks on the wall. And the parking lot attendant said, "This is where the Allies landed." Like, so it's still fucked up all these years later.
There was a show
Um,
on, I think it was A&E or no, it was on HGTV. And it was about these €1 houses that you can buy. It was Lorraine Bracco who played Dr. Melfi on the Sopranos and Karen Hill in Goodfellas. She bought one of these houses in Sicily for €1. And the series was like 6 episodes, and it followed her renovations on this house. She ended up spending like, I'm going to say like 250,000 to renovate the house. She made it absolutely fabulous. And so that's
Yeah,
her
that's a whole thing, right? Like
summer home.
young people are doing this too, right? Basically, you move to Sicily. There's other places. Does the Greek government do that
Yep.
too anywhere? Like
There's talk of it. They're paying people to move to some of the islands that have been depopulated because of the economic collapse 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it is, 15 years ago. And so yeah, there's some of the islands where they'll pay you up to 30,000 euros if you move. And it was especially successful during COVID because there were so many, what do you call them? COVID nomads or internet nomads or whatever they call them.
yeah,
So people actually did move to these islands. So long as you have an internet signal, you can work from
yeah.
anywhere.
Your biggest problem in those situations, in those places, is there might not be a grocery store nearby, or you know, there's
Right.
certainly no cafe, not yet, but there probably will be if enough people do this.
Oh
You
yeah.
just have
Yeah, I
to.
agree.
It's like basically it's homesteading.
It's
Um,
homesteading. Yeah, that's right.
Tara McCauley, Joe, this question for you, John. Do you have any history at Fort, I hope I'm not butchering this, Huachuca, or know what kind of
Oh
operations
yeah.
happen there?
Fort Huachuca. No, I never had to work at Fort Huachuca. Never. I've never even visited. I went
Where is it?
to, of course, um, where's Fort Huachuca? Is it in California? Let me Google it. Let's see. Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
Okay.
It's in Arizona. Never had to go. I went to Fort Bragg, did a bunch of cool stuff at Fort Polk because they created an Afghan village right there on the on the grounds of the fort, and they practiced back in the day. They would practice like guerrilla warfare and stuff. What other? Well, Fort Meade, of course, I was a regular, and that was about it. We didn't do a whole lot of stuff.
Question for me from Ms. Linda Scott. Thanks for the $5. Am I still going to write a book about the LA Times experience? The book's written. I started writing a proposal, and I just basically went on it was in a frenzy, and it's written. It's just sitting on the hard drive of my computer. I haven't sent it to my agent or my publisher at all. To be honest, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to publish it or not. If I got a sense that there would be, to be honest, I'm worried about two things. I'm worried about the LA Times or people there, like who are powerful and corrupt, suing me and dragging my ass through the courts. And then I'm also worried about just having to relive a very traumatic experience. Let's say the book does well, which is what you would want, but then you're giving countless interviews about it. John, I'm going to ask you that question, right? I mean, surely it's crossed your mind a bunch of times, like, maybe I should just like not talk about my experience as a whistleblower. Maybe I should just move on, and then psychologically it would just be like recede in the past. I always worry. I mean, like if the LA Times thing became a thing, like Austin Butner, the guy who fucked me over, he wants to run for governor next year, and if he does, I'm publishing that fucking book because I'm not letting him becoming governor of California if I can help it. But the point is, I don't want to have to fucking still think about all this. I mean, for you, it's even worse. I mean, how do you handle it?
Story over and over and over again. It
re-traumatizing.
Yeah, to the point where now, when if I said yes to every request, I would do 5 or 6 podcasts every single day, and so I've started saying no to every podcast that just wants me to retell my story. I'm not doing it anymore. I've had enough. Just had enough. And it doesn't, first of all, I don't get anything out of it personally.
Right.
And secondly, it doesn't add to the body of knowledge out there for John just to keep repeating the same story about himself over and over and over again. So no, the answer is no.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good metric, right? Like, does it help John? Venkatesh, by the way, it's just a reminder, everybody, we are going to go start taking calls from you guys in 6 minutes. Please like, follow, and share the show. But please, if you want to talk to us starting in 6 minutes, well, we'll stack up all the calls. We'll take the calls in the order that they are received. Just do what Robbie said. Go click the Discord link in the chat, either in YouTube or Rumble if you're watching this show live. And then go down to the area that says call-in voice chat, call-in waiting room. Robbie will take it from there. Please mute your tab so that you don't hear yourself on echo, but unmute yourself talking. People haven't mastered this yet. Here's the ad that we need to say. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee. Now's your shot. In fact, Robbie's drinking it right now. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and local and laser focus, no crash, all single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear is yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio. You'd think I'd have this down by now. And grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Okay, so Hisham, question for you, John. Thanks for the $5. Can you please speak a little about the role of clinical psychologists in operations and in other capacities at the CIA? I love that question.
That's a terrific question. It's a little bit sensitive. So there are, as you might guess, there are a lot of psychologists at the CIA. A lot. A small number of them, just a few little, are assigned to the Office of Medical Services, OMS. And they are there to make sure that the people the CIA sends overseas are not crazy. A lot of them are. You'd be surprised. And then they're put on a travel ban until they're less crazy. But most of the clinical psychologists at the CIA are split into intelligence and operations. The intelligence ones work with the analysts to do psychological evaluations on foreign leaders, right? How we can then use the psychology of foreign leaders to get a leg up, whether it's in trade negotiations or issues of war and peace or whatever. The other ones are in operations. I worked very closely with the CIA's team of operational psychologists because let's say I'm recruiting a terrorist. I want to make sure that the guy's not nuts, that we're not going to use him in an operation, then he's going to turn around and kill me in the middle of the operation. Or make sure that he didn't make the whole thing up. And when he volunteered to us that he was a member of XYZ terrorist group. I did one operation. I've told the story a couple of times. It was with a psychologist and a hypnotist who was a psychiatrist. And they hypnotized this guy. I won't get into the story here, but oh my God, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I've spoken about it a number of times. But sometimes you need the psychologist to advise you as to just how far you can push a guy before he cracks. Maybe you want him to crack. Maybe you want to ruin his life because he's an asshole or he's a double agent or he's a plant or whatever. Or maybe you want to push him so he gives you as much information as he can, but you don't want him to crack. You don't want him to ruin his life. So you find yourself becoming very close to the psychologist. There were a couple who were my go-to. Two psychologists who were my go-to partners on these operations, a man and a woman. And I still think about them all these years later. I don't even know if they're still alive. They probably aren't. But yeah, you end up becoming very close to the psychologists.
Kevin Cronin asking me how my op-ed is coming along concerning consumers. It's up online. Just go to raw.com. So just it's right there. Click columns. Let's see. Let me ask. So we have two quick. There's the flash fire at the Swiss ski resort. We need to touch upon, and also the health insurance issue. So there's this. At least 40 people have died in Switzerland at this ski resort. This was a New Year's Eve celebration. And apparently there's images from online suggesting that they were having flaming champagne bottles. This reminds me a little bit of that crazy fire in Rhode Island during the heavy metal concert a while ago. And apparently, according to fire experts, this was what they call a flash fire, where basically if there's a lot of combustibles in an enclosed space, a fire can start in one place, but then simultaneously basically take up the entire room all at once. So no one has a chance. And within seconds, the temperatures could exceed 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And basically no one has a fucking chance. They say even a firefighter in full protective gear would not survive. It's just horrible. I mean, John and I were talking before we came on, and I mean, surely this has something to do with building standards. John, you were saying like the Swiss have it really together. They're a very organized society, famously to the point of boredom.
Famously, I was shocked by this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was shocked by it. I was shocked not just by the fact that it happened, which really was jarring, but by the fact that so many people were killed and injured so quickly. The first thing I thought of, like you, Ted, was this fire in Rhode Island. It was at a nightclub in Rhode Island, how many years ago? And, you're dealing with corruption, you're dealing with people kind of asleep at the switch. I don't know. I always kind of had in my mind that the Swiss were beyond that.
Hmm.
I guess not.
No, rock and roll lore says that Deep Purple song "Smoke on the Water" is also based on some disco fire that happened in Northern Europe, I guess back in the 70s. So yeah, these things just happen from time to time. It's horrible, and you kind of like wish that we could develop fire codes that address these things. And finally, John, we have lots and lots of people who are either coming into the new year with higher health insurance rates from the Affordable Care Act. I got to know politically, right? So people are either paying much higher rates or they're just going to drop their coverage. I've got to think that this is going to percolate politically and it's going to make a difference this year and going forward. I can't think that's just going to that. I don't know who's going to pay the higher price. I suspect the Republicans just because they're the incumbent party. But I would imagine there's some hard feelings towards Democrats because, they treasonously signed on to, they backed away during the government shutdown for no reason really whatsoever. And they could have stood their ground and the party leadership didn't punish them, didn't take away their committee assignments, nothing happened. It's kind of like a bipartisan act of malfeasance.
I'll tell you, man, I am just as angry today as I was when those, whatever it was, 4 Democrats just collapsed under the weight of the government shutdown. Like you, my terrible Obamacare plan went up 20% overnight, just like that, to the point where I can't afford it. Thanks to Barack Obama, it is illegal to not have health insurance. So I'm stuck. Now, thank God, 1st of February, I'm going to get health insurance through the media company that I do my TV show with. So I have 1 more month of this gouging, and then I'll have some insurance. But listen, I put the blame squarely on the shoulders of these Democrats. They didn't have the guts, they didn't have the belly to stand up to the Republicans and demand a continuation of subsidies.
And they're part of it. And the thing is, my minority leader Chuck Schumer let them do it, right? He didn't say, "You guys crossed the line, we'll fuck you." He didn't do that.
Oh yeah, we'll strip you of your committee assignments. We'll put you on the Select Committee on Aging. How about that?
We'll reassign you to an office facing an air shaft.
Exactly.
Yeah, they didn't do it.
Exactly.
There was no punishment. He gave them permission.
He gave them permission.
So therefore, it's like it's not just those 4 or 5. It's effectively the entire party.